Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Matt Harvey from Exhumed. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice to be here.
So, Matt, give people a little bit of history behind Exhumed.
I started the band back in 91 with some friends from high school. We did a lot of different demos and splits, and then we did our first record in 1998 called Gore Metal. We did two more records, and then about 2005 we kind of took a hiatus for 6 years, and then we came back with a record called All That's No Glory in 2010, I believe it was, or 2011, one of those years. And then we did another record 4 years ago called Necrocracy, and now we have a brand new album coming out Friday, October 13th on Relapse Records called Death Revenge.
And now, Matt, being the lyricist of the band, explain to people how you go about writing lyrics and incorporating the whole gore theme to them.
It's kind of evolved over time. I mean, when we were kids, it was kind of just more of the grosser than gross kind of thing, and then as we got a little bit older, we tried to start making it a little bit more clever and added a bit of tongue-in-cheek humor, and then we started kind of using the horror and gore imagery metaphorically. So some of the songs would be about, consumerism or reality TV or, sort of negatives we would see around us. But we would, instead of saying TV rots your brain, we would make a song literally about how TV rots your brain, literally rotting. And then on this new record, it's something we haven't done before. It's a concept album about a series of murders in Scotland in the late 1820s, and so that was a little bit different. I did some research and a pretty good amount of reading and stuff, and took the historical events as closely as made sense and adapted those into lyrics and wrote all the lyrics from the standpoint of different characters, kind of like how King Diamond on Abigail did it or whatever. So that was a bit different as well. So it varies.
So Matt, where did this concept come from?
I was just kind of poking around on Wikipedia, just looking for stuff to write about, really, and I kind of stumbled upon this case. It's normally called the Bergen Hair murders or the Anatomy murders, and anyway, so I just read the Wikipedia entry, and I was just kind of struck by the amount of occurrences in the case that were really similar to things that we'd always sang about. Obviously the band is called Exhumed, so we've had numerous songs about grave robbery and that kind of stuff, and then there was murdering, and there was anatomical dissection, and it was all sort of stuff that we had talked about separately, and this one case kind of weaved in all of these themes that were already part of our aesthetic. So I've been thinking about doing a concept album for a little while, and upon reading this, I was like, well, if we're going to do a concept album, this is clearly what we should be doing it about, because the story just dovetailed so nicely into the things that we sing about already.
It does. And I was looking at it too, I'm it was this whole concept was written for Exhumed. I mean, it's all about exhuming bodies or killing. I mean, I was reading, because of course, after I had to, go through the song list of the album, I'm looking all this shit up too, and I looked up the Anatomy Act of 1832. I'm like, what the hell is that? And where the hell is Matt even coming up with this shit? But then now that you said that you were kind of poking around on Wikipedia and how this, now I can understand. I'm like, where does one just come up with the Anatomy Act of 1832 in everyday life? But it is.
Yeah, so it's a horror story, and it's also sort of a period piece. And
yeah.
Like I said, it's it's fairly closely based on the true story.
Right.
The beginning part we kind of fictionalized just because it was, after reading about the biographies of the people involved and then reading about sort of the culture around the underground trade of grave robbery with the anatomy schools and everything else, it just was a little bit tighter narrative and, kept things more thematically structured. Because we don't want to be like, so-and-so was a doctor and he went to South Africa with the British Army. So that has nothing to do with Exhumed. So I was like, we need to take some other elements that are historically, sensible and shove that in there. So it was really fun to put together.
It was, and it's kind of cool to read the history too, because when you're reading that whole Anatomy Act, before that even happened, it was really not illegal to take bodies out of the ground and chop them up and shit, it was just crazy. And then at least from what I read, and then afterwards, because they were kind of mentioning how they're dead bodies and they don't have rights and whatever, and then of course all the other moralistic shit and everything came in when they did that Anatomy Act of 1832, but the whole thing was just kind of neat. Then I forgot what I was doing, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to...
a rock album or a fucking history class?
I know, well, it was kind of cool, because, like you said, it's kind of loosely based on true things that happened that you would... bizarre shit, that happened. So Matt, did you write the music after you had this whole concept and lyrical thoughts in your head, or did you have music already starting to be written before you even thought of this concept?
Well, we always try to write the music before the lyrics because I have a problem. If I just start writing words, I'll just keep writing more and more words because I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, oh, that's clever, blah, 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 blah. And then when you go to cram them into the music, you're constantly singing and the music doesn't breathe. So we always try to write the music first. And I had a few songs, that are already written, and then kind of stumbled on the concept and then tried to, figure out which, how to break up the story and how many songs we would need and I kind of let the music develop independently of the lyrics and then smoosh it together in the way that made the most sense. And we recorded 4 other songs when we recorded the album. We haven't finished them, but basically we had more music written. It just was a case of kind of what songs went best with the story, and each song is supposed to be kind of reflective of what's going on through the story, So it was an interesting combination because usually I just write all the music first, and when I have 15 songs, I'm like, cool, now I'll sit down and write some lyrics. Whereas this one, it was, in some cases the lyrics influenced the direction of the music, and in other cases the music sort of dictated where it would fit in the story. It's a whole different way of making a record, which is cool because it keeps it interesting for me after all these years of making all these records. I need to do something a little bit different. I'm just gonna, I don't want to get stuck in a rut of just doing the same old shit.
Right. Well, this one's kind of fun. So, where did you guys record it at?
We recorded in Orlando, Florida, with our good friend Jared Pritchard. They'd done the last 2 records at the same studios, and we were really happy with them, but we just kind of wanted a change, because we felt that this record was a little bit different, and we wanted to have a different sort of vibe, and we wanted to go someplace different and get out of our, just get out of the routine, So we, Mike and I, our drummer Mike, and I went down to Orlando for, I think it was 10 days and just kind of holed up in the studio. And Jared was really easy to work with, actually. I know him pretty well, and he can be kind of a ball buster, and I was really expecting a little bit more drill sergeant kind of shit, but I guess we practiced enough because we didn't get yelled at too much, so it was good. But you need that. You need somebody to to push you a little bit and tell you when it's not good enough, or else you'll just kind of shit out anything,
That's very true. So Matt, tell us a little bit now about the cover and the artist, and also the artist for the interior illustrations.
Well, when when we decided to do the concept, I had this idea of having, an illustration for every song. And actually, my wife found Lucas Ruggieri on Instagram. I'd seen his art before, and she's like, oh, look at this guy's art, it's really good. And I was like, oh, this guy would be perfect for what I had in mind. There's an old version of Frankenstein illustrated by one of my favorite comic book artists, Bernie Wrightson, and he does art that's similar to what Lucas did on the interior, where it's very detailed line work and stuff like that. I mean, Lucas obviously has his own vibe or whatever, but it was similar enough that it kind of gave me the same feeling, and that was what I wanted. And when I approached him, I said, we want something like Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. He immediately was like, oh, I love Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. Perfect. And so he, also got roped into reading about the whole story and everything else, and works really closely with us as far as developing, ideas for each image. I mean, we didn't have to supervise him too much, so he fucking knocked it out of the park. And then for the cover art, we actually had a different guy in mind, but the scheduling didn't work out. And so we went to Orion Landau, who's the house artist at Relapse, but he had painted the Decapitator Storm Before the Calm record cover that I did. And I really liked that painting, so I knew he was a good painter. And again, he kind of knew exactly what we were going for. I just told him, I'm like, I want it to look like an 80s VHS horror kind of poster that you'd see like in a mom and pop video store when I was a kid, And that was exactly what he came up with, and he really did a good job. And if you look, I mean, I don't know if you have the CD, it's kind of hard to see, but on the LP, if you look at the illustrations and the cover, like you will see us, like you'll see the band members in the illustration, which is quite cool because we're each voicing different characters, and in the illustrations we're each depicted as those characters and stuff. So it's really cool how well they were able to integrate the whole concept, because it was a lot more of a project, putting this record together than just like, hey, we got 12 cool songs, like this is a cool piece of art at the end. So it was really, I owe a lot of thanks to those guys for helping bring it all together, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it makes it fun for the listener, too, when you get that CD and you're going through the booklet, and then you're listening to the music and you're looking at the characters now, especially after you just mentioning that and seeing who it looks like from the band. It just makes it kind of fun, you know what I mean? Not just boring old, here's the songs in the booklet, so now we know what we're saying type of thing.
Well, I was thinking about it, and I didn't even realize it until I started doing press with this album, but like the way it, in a perfect world, what we would like for the listener to do is to sit down with the record, put it on, read the lyrics, and there's notes before each song with different, excerpts from the research that I've done and the papers of the time and the folklore of the time, etc. And then there's the image, and it's almost like it reminded me of the experiences that I used to have as a little kid. I always had these records with, like, Batman or, like, whatever movie.
Right.
And the black hole and stuff. And you put on the record, and it was a story, and then you'd hear the dialogue and the sound effects, and you'd be reading the story while looking at a picture from the cartoon or the movie, and then, at a certain sound effect, you would turn the page or whatever. And I never really thought about it while we were making the record, but ultimately I think that's kind of what we're going for the listeners, to sit down and, yes, it's an album, and if you hear one song on Spotify, you should be like, oh, it's a kick-ass death metal song, hopefully, and move on with your life. But if you really want to, we're hoping that we're able to draw in the listener to kind of just take 45 minutes and really use their imagination and get brought into this other world of a story and everything else. I mean, we'll see. It's kind of ambitious, I guess, for a death metal band, but we'll see what happens.
I think it's fun. I like that. I like the whole, the concept itself, but then being able to follow along and I know exactly what you're talking about those when you were a kid listening to those things, and there's like a beep, and then you turn the page, and then you go.
Right. The sound of, whatever. If it's a Disney thing, it was like Tinkerbell's little wand or whatever. If it's like I have a Spider-Man record, I actually rebought it as an adult, and sharpshooter goes, and we turn the page. And I was like, this is awesome.
It's fun. Now, are you guys going to be doing some touring following up the album?
We are. We are going out with Black Dahlia Murder and Suffocation for a week on the West Coast.
Oh, nice.
At the beginning of next month, and then we will be announcing some United States headlining dates, I believe, this week. I think it's pretty much done. I'm just working with our agent and our publicist to figure out the final routing and when we're ready to announce. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. We're playing the Ozfest meets Knotfest, like corporate rock, at the Globo Dome Festival here in California. So that should be sort of interesting and different, I guess. And yeah, we want to get out and play as much as we can. We're really stoked to be able to play these new songs live. I mean, we recorded the record in April. We finished writing it in like the beginning of 2016. So I'm like dying to finally play the fucking song.
So people can is your Facebook the best place for people to go to find out, you know, what dates are going to be coming up and what you guys got going on?
Yeah, I mean, generally that's where all the information sort of goes. We do have like a blog site that I've been neglecting for a while, so I think I'm going to start doing stuff with that as well. And we just got an Instagram account and we're on Twitter and all that shit too. So you know, we're everywhere. You know.
So before you go, now we also know you from the vocalist in Gruesome, who's also writing a new album, the second full length. Now, how's that coming along?
I think I might be premature in saying this, but I believe all the recording is now done. If not all, like 96% of it. I'm really stoked for this record because, you know, obviously we are a death tribute band,
right.
And this record will kind of be our spiritual healing, and so it's kind of fun because we've been playing the real raw, nasty shit for a couple of years now, and now we're going to be able to incorporate a little bit more sophisticated stuff into it, and especially for like Dan Gonzalez, our guitar player, I think he gets to shine a little bit more on this record, and so does Gus. He gets to do some stuff that's a little bit more interesting on the drums and shit. So it's gonna be really fun. I'm really excited for that. That'll be next May. So hopefully, you know, if logistics work out and everything goes the way it's supposed to, you know, I'll be busy with Exhumed until May, and then May will come, and then I can get busy with Gruesome, and then, you know, I will just basically never go back to my day job, and I'll be happier.
There you go. And, you know, also, we're looking forward to that, too, because, you know, I know you didn't mention it, but doesn't matter because James Murphy already did.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but I forget James, you know, he can talk. And, you know, it's not like a secret or anything, but yes, since it is our spiritual healing, we do have James coming back and doing a couple leads on the album, which I'm really stoked about. We actually were going to have Terry Butler play bass on one song, but just with the scheduling of our recording and obituaries, busy schedule, it just didn't work out. But, you know, when we're in Florida, we always try to, or when we're playing with Obituary, we always try to have him come on stage.
Yeah, it's fun.
The last tour we did, we were playing Pull the Plug with him, which was awesome.
It was so great, and people love it, too, you know. I mean, when I saw you guys in Hartford, when you did that and Terry came up on stage, I mean, everybody just loves it, you know. I mean, everybody loves death. Everybody loved the whole, you know, gruesome thing that you guys were doing up there. I actually had people coming up to me like, this sounds a lot like death, you know, people that weren't super familiar. And I'm like, that's good, because that's what...
I mean, that's at least it's better than them being like, oh, this sounds like Foreigner or something.
No, they were really super excited, yeah.
That's cool. And to me, I mean, as a person that grew up, obviously, being a big Death fan, and, you know, I saw him since 1990. I saw him twice that year and many times subsequently. It means a lot to me to have guys like Terry and James and also Sean Reinert and stuff be really supportive of what we're doing and, you know, kind of give us their blessing. And I wouldn't feel comfortable if, you know, somebody like Terry Butler was like, yeah, I don't really think that's very cool what you guys are doing. Like, you know, I would be like, shit, maybe we should stop because we mean it in a very respectful way to Chuck and to all the other guys in the band. And thankfully that's the way it's been received, which is very gratifying to me, you know?
Yeah, I was very excited when James was doing that because I was like, it's going to give it that extra frosting on the cake with that spiritual healing kind of vibe that he's going to put into it too. So we're really super duper looking forward to that. And the new Exhumed, like you're a busy man. So yeah, like you said,
That's
maybe
right.
all this gajillions of dollars you're going to be making from all of this, you won't have to...
You're making dozens of dollars. It's gonna be amazing.
So there you guys have it. You know, Exhumed's new album, Death Revenge, out October 1st, is it?
13th.
Friday the 13th. There you go, because of October 1st.
The whole horror movie, you know.
Ooh, that's awesome. On a Relapse record. And Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Guys, know you're a busy man. And best of luck with the new Exhumed and the new Gruesome. And, you know, we hope to hear you back when the new Gruesome comes out, too.
Oh, yeah, we'll be keeping busy. And thank you again for having me, Jed. It's always good.